What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the first episode of Generation V. Or is it Generation 5? I honestly don't know. I've been seeing most people call it Generation V, so that's what I'm going with. It also makes sense, right? Bot, compound V. So that's probably it. But yeah, let's get right into it. So the episode starts off 8 years ago with A-Train being drafted #1 overall. I'm not sure how the VOT draft works. We'll probably find out later on. But A-Train was the #1 draft pick. Apparently, A-Train also made history that day because he was the first black person to be in the 7, which is actually pretty sad because that means that not only was Black Noor never able to take off his mask, but apparently no one ever found out that he was even black. We are then introduced to Marie, which is the main character of the show, her little sister, and her two parents. As you can see, her father is a big fan of superheroes, which is probably how she ended up getting injected with Compound V. Now, Marie ends up getting a stomach ache, so she goes to the bathroom where we find out that she's actually getting her period for the first time. Now, as you guys saw in the start of the video, this is 8 years ago, and in present day, Marie is 18, making her 10 in this clip. Now, that's a big-ass 10-year-old, but it is a little confusing because later in the video, she says that she doesn't get her powers until she's 12. So I'm not sure how old she's supposed to be here, but it's either 10 or 12. Now, this is where we see Marie's power for the first time. Apparently, she can control her blood outside of her body. And as you guys are about to see, it's quite lethal.
Mom?
Jackie? What happened? Marie, what the hell happened?
So Marie takes out her parents with her period blood in front of her sister. Personally, I'd probably be depressed for the rest of my life after that. It's a very traumatic experience to say the least. Now we fast forward to the present day. We see Marie is in some kind of foster care for kids with superpowers. Now this could be the same place that we saw Madeline Stillwell's son teleporting. And the reason I say that is because we actually see a kid teleport next to Marie. The kid is a little bigger though, and we also know that a lot of people have the same powers in this universe, so I don't really know for sure. But it could be. That could be Stillwell's son. We then find out that in order for Marie to use her powers, she has to cut herself, which kind of sucks. Such a weird power, but once she splattered her blood all over the place, you can see she gets kind of lightheaded, which I mean makes sense. I mean, she just lost like a gallon of blood. We then see a foster kid get taken by VOT because apparently if you don't get adopted or get accepted into the Godokan University, you get taken to some kind of facility. Luckily for Marie though, she got accepted to Godokan University, so she doesn't have to worry about that. This is also where she says she's 18. So again, 8 years ago, she should have been 10, but I don't know. Marie is also highly motivated. She has high expectations, high goals. She wants to be the first black woman in the 7. But I mean, if you watch The Boys, you guys know that the 7 is not what it seems. But just like Starlight, right, and everybody else, basically, they think the 7 is like some great group to be a part of, and then they get disillusioned real quick. So Godokan University is a university for superheroes. As you can see, they have images of the 7 as if they're biblical figures in the background, so that should tell you all you need to know about who's in charge. It's probably the only superhero university, but I'm not sure. I'm also not sure if all the members of the 7 went there, but we know A-Train went there for sure. And we know Homelander didn't because he wasn't allowed to have a life really outside of being a superhero. But as far as the other members go, I honestly don't know. They then show us that Maeve and A-Train were both ranked #1 of their class when they got into the 7. But as you can see, the Deep was ranked #6 and he still got in. So you don't have to be ranked #1 to get in the 7. They then show us the top 3 of the current class. You got Luke at #1, Jordan Lee at #2, and Andre Anderson at #3. Now Luke, aka the Golden Boy, this guy had me fooled. I thought he was going to be one of the main characters of the show. As you guys are going to see. That's not the case. But he's basically like an upgraded version of Lamplighter. I mean, he could light himself on fire. His clothes burn off, so he's naked half the time. But yeah, he has fire abilities. He has super strength. And I think that's it. Jordan Lee can shapeshift. Now, at first I thought they could shapeshift to be anyone they want, but I think they can only shapeshift from one of 2 people, which is the girl version and the guy version, which is pretty cool, I guess. I'm not sure which one is the real one. Like, I don't know if he was born a boy or if she was born a girl. I don't know. I guess we just gotta call them they from now on. But they also have super strength, and as far as durability goes, we saw them tank a bullet, so they're probably very durable as well. And Andre Anderson has telekinetic powers, kind of like Kimiko's brother from The Boys. Don't know if he has any kind of super strength or any kind of durability. As we know, Kimiko's brother definitely did not have super strength. Man got held down by duct tape. So hopefully he's not as weak as him, but as far as his telekinetic powers go, he does seem to be more proficient with it. We see that he's able to mold things out of small objects. We are then introduced to Maverick, who is Mary's RA. Now, as you can see, he's invisible. Now, he stays invisible. I don't know if he's stuck like that or what. I also don't know if he's indestructible like Translucent was. But yeah, that's yet to be seen. We're then introduced to Emily, which appears to have the same ability as Termite from the boys. She can make herself really small. But she's definitely not as proficient as Termite was, because it looks like she has to throw up in order to get small. Now, this girl Emma is a little pervert. She constantly talks about threesomes and getting freaky with people. For some reason, Marie lies to her and tells her that she still has a brother and parents. I guess she's not comfortable telling people that she doesn't. We also find out that all of the dorm's windows don't open. Emma says that the reason for this is that people were flying away. Now, interesting fact, but a lot of colleges actually do this in real life as well to prevent students from jumping out of windows, except in real life, they go in a different direction. Emily then convinces Marie to go watch a Golden Boy workout. Apparently, a handful of people gather to watch this man work out. Now, like I said earlier, when Luke uses his power, his clothes burn off, so you already know Emma's perverted self has to be here. We're then introduced to Kate, which is Luke's girlfriend, and he's talking about how he keeps having nightmares about woods. Luke is about to get ready to fight this guy right here, which goes by the Incredible Steve. Luke wins and rips this man's arms off. Don't worry, they can apparently just be reattached. Luke also gives this man a pep talk, so he seems to be a pretty nice guy. Later, the class schedules come out for the semester, and we find out that Marie apparently doesn't have a cell phone, so she has to use Emma's, and that's where she sees that she was not accepted into one of her classes. Marie then goes to check why she was rejected, and she finds out that it was actually Brandon Lee, who is the professor's TA, who rejected her. As we know, in this universe, your social media presence is very important, and you could say it's even more important than the superpowers. And as we know, Marie doesn't even have a cell phone, so by not having social media, she was easily rejected. We're then introduced to Professor Brink, who immediately shoots Brandon.
Jordan!
What the fuck?
That is where we see that he is bulletproof. Now, he did change into his male body to tank this bullet, so that could mean that his male body and his female body have separate powers, but I'm not sure. Also, if that's true, that was insanely risky. Marie tries to convince Professor Brink to let her into the class, but he says no. Late that night, we then see a guy running away from the campus police. Marie sees this and decides to step in.
What's going on?
He's tweaking on meth.
Marie is able to trip up the guy with her blood powers. This kid then says that he's not going back to the woods. This is now the second time we heard someone talk about the woods. We saw Luke said he was having nightmares about the woods earlier. Andre then smashes a dumpster into him, and the police are able to subdue him. This guy gets thrown into some kind of facility, and as we can see, they have like woods painted on the walls. Also, there's like a little, what is that? Like a little cartoon character right there. I don't know what that is. Professor Brink then calls in Luke in his office and lets him know that he's actually getting into the 7. No draft, no nothing, just straight up going into the 7. He even asked him if he wants Maeve or Starlight's department. And he showed him a super suit that he said no matter how hot he gets, it won't melt. Now, Luke didn't seem too happy about the news. He actually looks pretty worried. Don't know if it's because of the nightmares that he's been having, or maybe he knows that the 7 isn't what it seems, but it definitely doesn't seem too ecstatic about the news. He even starts to hear noises in his head. We then see Andre and Marie talking about the boy that they stopped and how they have never seen him before. Andre then invites Marie to go hang out with Luke, Brandon, and Kate later that night. Marie rejects the invite, but Andre tells her where to meet, just in case she changes her mind. Emma then convinces Marie to go by threatening her by pleasuring herself very loudly at night. Once Marie leaves, we see that Emma's YouTube career isn't going too well, and she gets a lot of hate comments. She then gets a text from Liam, which is a guy that she briefly spoke to earlier that day, asking her to hang out whenever she wants. Now we cut to Marie talking to Luke, and this is where she says that she didn't know that she had powers until she was 12.
I didn't even know I had powers until I was 12.
Which again, I don't know if she was 10 or 12 in that first clip. I'm gonna go with 10 though, because she has been lying a lot to these people, right? She tells Emma that she has a father, so she's been lying a lot. So she could have just said 12 right now, just because she felt like lying. Now Emma ends up hooking up with Liam. Now I cannot go into detail into what they did, right? You guys are gonna have to watch the episode yourselves if you guys want to know what these two did. But I don't even think I can describe what they did without getting demonetized. All I'll say is they definitely did some odd things. Okay. Now, the only reason Liam is into her is because of her superpower to get extremely small, and that's really all he wants her to do, right? So he ends up peer pressuring her into getting small. Now, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but this is where we do indeed find out that she does have to throw up to get small. And as you can imagine, it's not a very fun experience for her. We also see that she has to throw up quite a bit because after throwing up once, as you can see, she's still like the size of like a little toddler, right? So she has to throw up multiple times to get to that super small size that we see. We then see the rest of the crew going out to a nightclub, and this is where we see Kate's power for the first time. Just by touching someone, she can basically make them do whatever she wants. Now, she doesn't seem to have too much control over her power because she has to wear gloves all the time, so that tells me that, I guess, just by touching someone, she automatically does something to their brain. Now, in the club, all the kids end up doing drugs. Luke ends up telling his friends that he made it to the 7, and apparently Andre tells him to invite him to the 7 because he has a crush on A-Train. As these three are talking about the rankings, we find out that apparently people don't like Brandon's power because it's too confusing. And I can't lie, I really don't see that. I don't see that translating to the real world. But yeah, in the boys universe, people do not like Brandon because he's both a man and a woman, which again, to me, doesn't make sense with all the other kinds of powers that we've seen on his show. Now, Brandon says that it most likely will be Andre who will be ranked number 1 once Luke leaves. And that's where we find out that Andre doesn't want to be ranked number 1 because apparently his father works somewhere high up. Now, could his father be Edgar? We don't know yet, but it is possible. Now, as Luke is walking around the club faded, he starts to see the woods and a creepy little boy in the back. Now, this creepy little boy is asking him for help. Now, Andre ends up hitting on some random chick at the bar, and he convinces her to let him show her a magic trick to impress her. But as he's further trying to impress her, a man ends up bumping into him, and he ends up cutting a woman's throat with the hummingbird. Andre then tries to save this woman, but I don't know, she looks like a goner. Brandon then convinces Andre that they need to flee, so they all leave. Except Marie. This is where we find out that Marie can actually also control other people's blood. See, now we're talking. Now she's starting to sound a little dangerous. Now, so far she can only do it when the blood is outside of their body. But if she starts being able to control people's blood while it's still in their body, she might be OP. She might be OP. But she's able to force this woman's blood back into her body, saving her life. Everyone around Marie is highly impressed. They start to praise her for saving this woman's life, and she becomes an internet sensation. Maverick, the RA, stops by Marie's dorm to tell her that Professor Brink actually wants to meet with her now. Now remember, the main reason she wasn't accepted into Professor Brink's class was because she had no social media presence. But now that she's trending on the internet, Marie has very high hopes right now, to say the least. Professor Brink is talking about how important it is to sacrifice, how even the best superheroes don't have this trait, right? So Marie's feeling good. She's expecting to hear good news.
You're being expelled.
Brink then lets Marie know that they're planning on blaming everything on her in order to save Andre, Luke, and Brandon, right? So they're saying that, yes, she did save this woman's life, but she's also the one that slit her throat, and therefore she has to be expelled. Now, a reasonably devastated Marie ends up storming out of the office and also partially blaming Emma for making her go out in the first place. We then cut to Luke, who is once again having these visions of the woods. He sees this little boy again whose name is Sam, and he's asking him to help him. We then cut back to Marie, who is currently going through the 5 stages of grief. She also has a flashback of the day when she killed her parents, and her little sister tells her to stay away from her. Understandably so. Now, her little sister called her a monster, which, again, understandably so. We then see Luke walking towards Professor Brink's office with a disturbed look on his face. Now, Marie also found extra motivation to go back to Professor Brink's office. I don't know exactly what her plan was. I don't know if she just wanted to talk more. I don't know if she was going to get physical. We don't find out. And the reason we don't find out is because as soon as she gets to his office, Luke has already incinerated him. He just kind of hugged him and flamed on, I guess. Now, Luke turns around to look at Marie, still with a very disturbed look on his face, and Marie is creeped out. Understandably so. Luke tells her that he had to do this. Marie's like, you, whatever you say, man, I didn't see anything.
You don't know about the woods.
She really tries to convince him that she won't tell anyone that, that she'll keep this a secret. But Luke doesn't end up believing her, and he ends up attacking her. While running away, she bumps into Jordan, and now Jordan is confronting Luke. Now, Jordan tries to calm him down, but Luke now thinks that Jordan is also against him.
Go now!
So Luke and Jordan end up fighting. Jordan got a couple of good hits in, but Luke ends up choking him out. Now Marie is still running for her life, but now she runs into Andre. She tells Andre that Luke killed Brink. Now Andre ends up calming Luke down with the power of friendship, I guess. They say they love each other. Luke is naked right now, by the way. Luke apologizes one last time, takes off into the air, so we find out here that he actually has the power to fly as well. So add that to the list. Also add self-detonation to the list. And that's how episode 1 of Generation V ends. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.